Hello, America. This was sent through the mail. Fake conversations with me. A whole bunch of judges' family members have timed collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, including the family members of prosecutors and co-defendants of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, on off the news locations like Fox Connecticut News. Collusions with people next to WFSB, next to WTNH is also the FBI, also at corners of streets in Wethersfield. There's a corner of the street next to a Paul Kelly and neighbors of his and people associated with a Paul Kelly and his family. I don't even know him. He tried to make a fake exception, making confessions I didn't respond to. And a whole bunch of people tied to him at Hartford Hospital, like a Mark Violet, who also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, repeated a Joshua Julian involved with them, with federal crimes, with my neighbors, involved with on and off campuses. I never even had a class with Mark Violet. Mark Violet, I never even saw him around campus. One time he made a fake exception when I walked by. In other words, when it was exceptions, demonstration is the same thing. They plant evidences, fake ties, fake natures of ties to people with foreign and domestic. Has something to do with people all along Hangdog Lane, and Hangdog and Two Rod Highway. And those are conjunctions of Route 3 now. All along Route 3. Like the Elm Streets on Route 3 have people involved with predicate acts with judges and prosecutors, off the state corrections and judicial branch offices. A Mike Corona, I don't know him. And when they try to make the exceptions, there's people I don't know law, and there's ones that I know they make fake exceptions. He shot out the windows of a Corona's auto body right next to his house with a BB gun. And with a Joe DeMoro involved with that, with former director of the FBI, more than one Joe DeMoro involved. And the court switch and forged notes with the names with these people know. And he was involved with my fifth grade teacher, increasingly involved with confessions from others, planting evidences, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me and others. And my sixth grade teacher had people from the other classes and a former Mayor Gold and a teacher that lived near me who was a sixth grade teacher, but another class. Know how we were in the same class as people were never in the same class at the same time. And then how they have class associated with black, white, because these are some black KKK themed and Latino themed intelligence people, including judges and prosecutors speaking fake things in records with their families. They have all kinds of sick uses of the veterans buildings and the spots next to them. All kinds of sick uses of the Connecticut State Corrections offices and the spots next to them. They have all kinds of medical corruption with Russians and Americans against Americans, Russians against Russians, and the difference uses. You have fake integrity. You have fake identities here and there. No, in other words, the identities of the law can't defend themselves and afford to be, let alone to protract. Convictions regarding reasons, answers presented to us by nature itself. So they're playing games pretending that nature does. In other words, there are 5 parts of time. The value of sequence true before the smallest finite detail or the order of the finite, which nature shows us we can only grapple with properly the order of the finite one way. And nature shows us the difference between positive as a criminal insidiousness nature or positive or hyper positive, so to speak, for that which is demonstrably not like a truth used for a lie. A truth is a positive. It can be used for a lie. It can be used to screen an emotion. A motivation. Also, WFSB has people from the Institute of Living involved with them with their stories used to measure and maintain cover-ups and not discerned how they've been stacking predicate acts with facts. They have a Dr. Laura Saunders who has roles with her neighbors with more medical and sexual offenders of kids. And they have more women judges involved at the same time. and I wouldn't make this up. In my mind, is I'll delineate their delusions from their criminal foreign influences. There's a Rob, there's a Ronald, the real Ron. There's different Ronalds, people with the name Ronald, associated next to Central Connecticut State University with intelligence families that live on Covington Street that have been planting evidences with them and interdepartments. A whole bunch of people from Central Connecticut State University have roles with reported rape confessions by Heather Hansen tied to a Joe DeMoro, and she also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed co-defendant family members as co-defendants. A former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, also involved with abuses of other girls with her. With that, that's one of the reasons she doesn't say anything. And John DeMoro made confessions about that, about abuses of kids, and that's why I didn't even know who he was. And Judge Mr. Abruzzi, my fifth grade teacher, I never had a personal conversation with him. The only time he ever said anything to me personally, he told me to do a maze that a Joe DeMoro did. His name kept getting brought up too. Before that and after, by our Central Connecticut State University's name kept getting brought up. His name was brought up to me at Central Connecticut State University in confessions. With Central Connecticut State University had roles with the World Trade Center attack, and they forced Saudis to collusions. And the Saudi attackers forced America to collusions, countering wrong, blaming other things, others ourselves, as the breaching method maintains the outcome /S. So, a former sixth grade teacher named Mr. Burstein, he has kids. He has roles also with former mayors and the religious spots associated with them, where they put fake things into databases, identity theft, fraud, slanders, also as federal evidence is crimes. Where we're fighting against, I was one of the people in the Ninth Circuit Court. I was an observer in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center towers the day of the attack. And I noticed names on all sides of that case leading up to the World Trade Center attack, in the attack context, and since, are being and haven't been attached to fake conversations with themselves and with others and with everyone around them. And federal evidences, crimes by the news, too, planting evidences at crime scenes being used to measure and maintain. Like, for example, too, I want to jump the subject, but like, in other words, with reports of the shooting of the president and the CIA's involvement. CIA also has roles with confessions. Can't lie about those things. So even if they were made up, they show anyway. Kelly Kazmarek, I only know how to pronounce her name. I don't know her. I never was around her. On Facebook, she made confessions about the CIA. She has roles with Wethersfield Police, with the CIA and the FBI and Saudis. They forced collusions with them, fabricating and changing digital evidences. Sometimes it was the leadership of Facebook. Sometimes it was the leadership of Twitter. And the difference of that is also used. It's also X, preventing me and others from a response. And the Wethersfield Police use wire crime acts and methods, faked and changed communications with us over the phone. And I never will have a conversation with them at the Wethersfield Police Department. And they pretended other when I was a kid, and now as an adult too. They're forging names and switching names. Increasingly, one's a David Smith, a Jamie Smith, and their mother. I recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed intercities with intelligence planting evidence is also on and off Hartford Hospital, and with people involved with threats to hurt me. I don't know their names too. In other words, and they also have the same people have federal evidences crimes with lawyers personally and professionally at Hartford Hospital, fabricating things. Ones with debt badges too. And these are the same ones. They have roles with their sources. They have roles with the intelligence community at New Britain's medical campuses, other medical campuses and fire campuses. in between all the schools, including public schools and private schools. They've been planting evidences with the difference of it. The Archdiocese is involved with stories with WFSB and narratives regarding how they want schools and what they think, but they're leaving out how they still have roles with child offenders. That's also forced by Facebook, which I warned them. I was going to come, don't make up anything, don't change anything. And I was going to ask them a question, in other words. And then they blocked my Facebook page before I got to ask it to the, because next to Fox Connecticut News, involved with wire crimes with them and other natures of predicate acts with them, there's a St. Anthony's Church involved with a Perron family /IES, and with a Kerr family /IES, and neighbors of theirs who are also teachers from Wethersfield High School through time. Stephen, for example, on the street of a Kerr family, and Eric Jensen has planted evidences, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, to teachers, two teachers that reportedly live there near Morgan Circle, and people associated with Griswold Street and Route 3 associated with Eric Jensen have been planting evidences with FBI and co-defendants of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and state police. Increasingly, people next to a state police place on the Berlin Turnpike have been planting evidences, like with the DeMorros that shot the windows out. They also lit a house on fire. That was an abandoned house next to where the state police. I think that's where the state police is. Near where it was also a location brought up also by it was a Krispy Kreme. It's right next to where they put up a Zen Leaf, one of the marijuana dispensaries. A doctor of modern languages, a Dr. Shoup, he brought up in Confessions that spot too, and he has roles with people at Trinity College who have been faking audio and video at Trinity College. One of the officers used the name Darth Vader. And he has roles with my previous neighbors, with an untimely death at Trinity College, and with a Robert Rodriguez, who brought it up with confessions from other areas. People from other areas came on my street in Wethersfield, made confessions. The same roles and names did that when I was in New Britain, because they're fake. In other words, they're covering live progressions. People I never had classes with, but were in the same grade, and ones I wasn't even in the same grade. That's why they had me stay back a year. A whole bunch of people tied to with Jonathan Miano while with sequence shifts with foreign and domestic medical families, and people all along Elm Street and Rocky Hill and Wethersfield, like in Oliveri, is also involved with with businesses at the corners of Elm Street and Route 3, as is an Oliveri family that lives on Elm Street in Wethersfield. And this Route 3 goes by the state judicial branch offices. And they've been planting evidences next to there. Also next to the houses of World Trade Center attack victims' families, who also had collusions with the attack through other, and since to hide it. And in other words, and they're being coached through it because they were attached to fake ties and fake natures of ties to me. Robert Rodriguez also involved with that and their uses of parks. And Eric Jensen, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he has all kinds of federal evidences, crimes, and child abuses with people on off a park in Wethersfield, and people talk and conversations he had with his girlfriends about me. I don't even know them, and their neighbors. Like one of his girlfriends, a neighbor, was a former Mayor Gold, lived not too far from them, and Joel, but also Joseph Dennis, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, all along Route 175. His family, informed with the mayor's foreign and domestic, have roles with New Britain locations and names, further with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and child abusers, including sexual and medical. He has roles with psychiatry, with all kinds of medicines, crimes associated with the Justice Department. and their tactically delusions wrought black people. See white survive, a 10. So they've been preventing writing since I was a kid because these are families that were connected with corruption since before I was born. There are retired police chiefs from Wethersfield involved with a Ray Cololo in that house since before they moved there. Also, collusions at where they moved from. 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike are increasingly one of the things that ties a whole bunch of people who planted evidences on off Trinity College, CCSU, and child campuses before that. And increasingly, as timed collusions with people associated with body dumping spots and murders involved. And reports of it, the reporters have collusions with it. Reports of the murder of Greg Kyler are one of the murders that were and confessions that were of others tied to the murder and the group that and people associated with the murder. Like even probation officers are increasingly crime scenes at collusions for uses of Wethersfield town offices has roles of wire crime action methods, mail crime action methods, falsified police reports roles, use/estimate roles, including with there are probation officers tied to a boxer from Hartford, Mike Oliver. His probation officers got involved with the murder of another boxer named Greg Kyler and various natures of federal evidences, crimes, and child abuses associated with people associated with him in boxing, like a John Scully. Also, these are people that brought up the name and made confessions tied to the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso. And they have roles with federal evidences, crimes, and extortion, and predicate acts with John Scully pretending to be against, speaking about that. You guys have obligations by the law to get on paper one name in sequence with your sources too. Increasingly, people from Wethersfield tied to Connecticut boxing gyms have been planting evidences, fake ties, and fake natures of ties to me, with prosecutors and judges personally and professionally involved with them, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, including as the ones with medical families. So Rick Paglione sought me out to confess and record that Jonathan Maiano was involved with that, with him and my neighbors, planting fake ties, fake natures, and ties, sequence shifts with me, and fake ties to me with doctors, like a Leahy family involved with a Brian Silver, increasingly with New Britain Superior Court, involved with federal evidences crimes next to the campuses, and roles with uses of corners of buildings to confess and demonstrate people know their names, know your name, but you don't know theirs, and the pretending passions and emotions, like punching people at corners, making confessions at corners, and slandering people, lying about what they think about them too, and what they think about themselves. So the courts have been preventing me writing since I was a kid. It's not just New Britain Superior Courts, Hartford Courts families that were planting evidences with New Britain Superior Courts families, and the district court were planting evidences at West Hartford locations, on and off the campuses in West Hartford, Wethersfield, New Britain. They've been planting evidences. There are people with the name O'Neill, especially if they're tied to a Governor O'Neill, because they have a Governor Malloy involved with East Hartford overtly with the principal child's a sex offender and medical offenders of kids. And he forced that by roles with evidences crimes at the principal child abuser's campus before he was caught. And with Wethersfield Police Chief Cintron and his family. And there's a police chief, another police chief retired, who had intimate ties tied to 80 Carroll Drive, is one of the houses involved. Keeps getting brought up by confessions and demonstrations, and roles of predicate acts with the police switching names and forging names, crimes of weapons and poisons, and that's part of the name switching. So people can't tell. If you try to tell, they'll attach you to fake conversations. They already attached me to fake writing of a police report and kind of communications with police at the police department when I was a kid. There wasn't at all. They planted evidences with the kids that they did communicate with, and they make fake sides of issues. A Christopher Walters is one of the ones recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, planting evidences with houses from other sides of where he lived, with people on my street involved with drugs, medicines, crimes with kids, and prosecutors and judges, and foreign and domestic military. There's a Lombardo family. These are increasingly people at Hartford Hospital involved with the same house slash S, who as ones that attach me to fake conversations with themselves. And their family members are involved with predicate acts on my street. A Ray Colo called me on the phone, asked me if I wanted to buy mushrooms. In other words, and they were all messed with. So they give the qualities of drugs and they lie about what the kids using the drugs. They're just keeping it for themselves. Like the quality pot, not because but it's legal now. In other words, they're using the qualities of pot and all that for federal evidence crimes. They have people that are KKK themed, Los Alito themed, Black and Latino themed, wire crimes in Wethersfield police, attaching kids and their families to fake uses of drugs and alcohol, etc., so they can keep using their family members in those spots to hide life progressions, to hide their actually recorded natures. So a Judge Killian has family members next to him involved with the intelligence community, and himself speaking fake things in records, tactically delusions raw too, with child offenders, leaders of the kids, including sexual no and medical at the same time. And they have mail and wire crimes. The first of 3 times, this is before I saw him speaking fake things in records, the Judge Killian. This is the first of 3 times I was there. We only was there for 3 days. And didn't have communications with people. They forged the name of a Dr. Shamsi Ali. He confessed that over the phone to me. Plus, it's recorded. I didn't even see it. They make fake audio and video at recorded locations. Campuses film 24/7. They influenced Eric Burgess, who I never saw on the campus in my life, to pretend other with the reported son of a Dean Judd, and others who forced Saudis to collusions before the World Trade Center attack, as roles with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, and all sides of criminal and civil cases, and judges and prosecutors, the depositions, all sides of the depositions in the deposition spot. And their family members were planting evidences at West Hartford locations and on off the campuses, child campuses, not just CCSU, but Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, was increasingly brought up since I was a kid by people at corner. When you walk around the corner, people make confession tied to Central Connecticut State University. People you don't even know the names of, and you're never going to have a conversation with. Like the intelligence community name, there's an Andrew O'Brien and a Tim O'Brien. They have rules with Brockley Hill Police, Hartford Police, Wethersfield Police, wire crime acts and methods, and with the ones with the name Cololo and Smith. They also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have rules with the managers at Stop and Shops involved, to extents they don't even realize too, because they have the name Casper was also brought up by one of the ones involved with crimes with the lawyers and fabricating and changing things, and the difference of that uses. So they have doctors that won't get it on paper, and their tactically delusions raw. So get them on paper, one name and sequence. I'll show you what good their badges are for, and when they pretend they could speak for any of those subjects in the news, let alone elections, with all of them at once. You guys have some sick thinkers because you guys came through sick campuses, A through Z. Modern Pastry has roles recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with a Jonathan Mayano and his family members, as one of the people involved with houses that mixed roles with the businesses next to Hartford Hospital. Also with Demoro's Market and Aiello's Kitchen have roles with the Mayanos, with drugs and medicines crimes in the form of them putting fake things in databases at campuses with the doctors involved and their family members in social circles, sequence shifts, planting, fake ties, fake natures of ties to people. Let's get them on. It has something to do with their roles and people associated with Wethersfield Pizza too, right next to the state judicial branch offices. And the Colo and Demoro recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed it involved with them with names next to the state corrections offices. And one of the teachers, when she was a kid, she confessed, and I didn't respond to it. Lance Cuddy is one of the ones involved with her, increasingly with child abuses. Now as a teacher of the kids, who has roles with the ones that live a street over from me, planting evidences, federal evidences crimes, federal rules of evidences crimes, uses of their religious spot nature. They bring it up. My algebra class teacher in high school brought up the sexual relationship of a neighbor of mine and the fact that she was Jewish. While Mike DeMaine is also one of the ones recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by friends of himself, involved with federal evidences crimes with judges and prosecutors, and has police forms next to Fox Connecticut News, involved with federal evidences crimes with names Intercities and all along Route 3 and people on Hangdog Lane. He had a girlfriend there, and her sister and family and neighbors are involved with former Mayor Gold, increasingly in other mayors and their family members with offenders of kids and fake ties and natures of ties to people. So it's important to get them on paper, one name in sequence. I shouldn't have to beg all this time. Judge Napolitano, don't be a talking head. Get them on paper, one name in sequence. Let's go. You could be better than that.